Good morning and welcome to Zen Fits here in Blackstone, Virginia, the center of the world. But then you too are at the center of the world. Title of this talk is The Pain of the Bud is the Pain of the Bloom. The pain of the bud is the pain of the bloom. So let's dig in. Let's pull this cotton ball apart here. You need a good metaphor to open the bloom of your mind. See, our minds today are trapped in the bud. We're trapped in the world, and it's painful. The world's confusing. The world is contradictory. No matter what you do, you can't get out. No matter what you say, you can't arrive at the one. What is the one, you see? We've lost the one, and everything is two. We've lost the one, and everything is two viewpoints, two opinions. I'm right, you're wrong. No, I'm right, you're wrong. Yada, 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 you see. We're caught like an eternal ping pong game that nobody can win. So we keep coming up with better players. This time we'll win, but that better player creates a better player on the opposite. So we're still equal, you see. Bam, 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 bam. Nobody can win. And this is driving us mad. We're trapped in the bud. We can't find the flower. We know the flower is there. We know the bloom is there. It's in our heart. We all know it. We know what perfection is. We know what the bloom is. It's always the promise of the bloom, but we can't find it because every attempt to find it creates an opposite bud. So we're just a bunch of buds knocking our heads together. Nobody can find the bloom. And this is why the world has become so painful. The pain of the bud. The pain of being trapped. This is the pain of the fetus. So you have a fetus growing, starts from a one cell that divides, and it keeps dividing, until the womb is too big, too small for the fetus. And that's the pain of labor. The pain of the womb gets so great, the pain of the fetus, and they're both the same, you can't separate them, metaphorically, until it explodes into a one. Hey, a baby, yay, the one is born again, the one, you see. The flower is born out of the pain of the bud divided against itself. So if you take this metaphorical look, God damn it, didn't put my thing in. If you take this metaphorical look through the lens of this metaphor, it might give us a little way to get a handle on our historical situation here in America, is we are divided against itself, but we can't find the flower. We can't find the promised land. We can't find the kingdom of heaven. It's over there. It's after death. It's in the future. It's in the past. But right now, we're in the pain of the womb, the pain of the bud. So this metaphor is a way of looking at our pain from a different viewpoint. Now you see, the bud says, think you're a bud. We're all buds. We're all looking for the promised land. We're looking for the flower. We're looking for our bloom. Oh, if I get that job, I'll bloom. If I get married, I'll bloom. You see, if I get that right relationship, if I get that new car, the bloom is in the future, and I got to get to it. I got to struggle. I got to fight. I got to eliminate all the other buds. If I can get rid of all those other damn buds, I'll be the one bud, and I'll bloom. You see, But those other buds are keeping me from blooming. See, this is the Republican posture. Oh, I don't want to get into that. But the liberals, the left, the Democrats are keeping me from blooming. And of course, the lefts feel the Republicans are keeping us from blooming. So both sides feel the other is keeping us from blooming into one America. And so we just kick this bud down the road. So where is the bloom? Now, if you look at the flower, what is the wisdom of the flower? There's a bud. Now, the bud has the pain of the bud. It's the pain of the fetus, you see, that grows until it reaches, it's too big for the womb, and then it's born. So the bud stretches and grows until it blooms. Now our minds separate them. We say, oh, there's the bud and there's the flower, and the bud will become a flower in time. In time. So that's the way we think. America will become the promise of America in time. But I got to get rid of all these other damn buds. You see, I got to get rid of the obstacle. I got to polish the mirror. I got to do more yoga. Got to do more meditation. I got to get a better teacher. This is no good. Non-duality. But there's the pain of non-duality. I can think about non-duality. Oh, the bliss of non-duality. But I'm still in the bud. I can dream of the flower, but I'm still in the bud. So we dream about the bloom while we're in the bud. That's the dream of the bud. The bud dreams about the flower, but it suffers because it knows the bud has not been actualized. The bloom has not been actualized. It's not real. It's imagined. It's a hope. It's a dream, you see. But when we get to what's real, is I hurt, and who did it? I suffer. Who did it? Who's doing it? The left is doing it. The right is doing it. The evil one is doing it. The global cabal is good. Who's doing it? You see, well, pick out somebody. And so somebody will come along and tell you, oh, they're doing it. No, they're doing it. So, oh, yeah, well, then my bud gets strong and feels good because I got other buds to fight, you see. So the metaphor here that I'm working with and sharing with you is that the pain of the bud is the pain of the bloom. Now, this doesn't make sense. But does it? So let's look at the bud and the bloom as not being two. For instance, get back to my old Gestalt here. I know I hope you've seen this and figured it out, but there's a hag and there's a princess. The hag is, you can see her right eye, and you can see her nose, and you can see her mouth. The hag. And there's the princess. Princess is, here's her right eye, and here's her cheek, and here's a necklace. Hag is the princess is the hag. So if you look at this from the metaphor we're working with, the hag is the bud and the princess is the bloom. Can you separate them? If you see the bud or the hag, that's all you see. But if you see the princess or the bloom, that's all you see. So you see one or the other, but you can't hold them together. The princess, because the princess and the hag and the princess are the one that is two. Now you have to shift the way we look at this. If you say, oh, it's two, everything is two, well then there is the hag and there's the princess. That's two. But this is a Gestalt metaphor for ambiguity. So in ambiguity, the princess is the hag and the hag is the princess. Or, getting back to our metaphor, the bloom is the bud and the bud is the bloom. The bud is the bloom and the bloom is the bud. You can't separate in real life. You go in your garden and you see a flat stem there with a bud on it. Where's the bloom? You can't separate the bloom from the bud because the bloom is the bud is the bloom. The bud is the potential. The bloom is the potential of the bud. So the bud and the bloom are ambiguous in that they cannot be separated. So what is the one thing that is in common with the bud and the bloom? Pain. Pain is the common denominator. It's painful to be a bud. It's painful to be contained. It's painful not to be my potential. It's painful to be controlled and manipulated, cut and put in a vase. It's painful. It's painful. So what is the pain of the bloom? Well, the pain of the bloom is that you have to give up the bud in order to bloom. Think from oneness now instead of two. The bud has two pains. One pain of the bud is the pain of being contained, the pain of being in the womb. And the other pain is the pain of dying, the pain of giving up the bud and becoming the bloom or your true self. So the false self or the bud has pain, and the true self has pain because the bud has to die in order to become the bloom. In other words, the bud and the bloom are the same pain, but they're split into two pains. So I say, I hurt, and if I get to the future, and my bloom or the promised land, I won't hurt. But in order to get there, I have to give up being a bud, and that's painful. So there's one pain split into two. Now, if you could just be that one pain, that one feeling, if you could be the feeling, guess what? There would be no two. There would be one. If you could be one, the feeling of pain that is not divided into, I have pain and somebody else is doing it to me, you see, that's two pains. The pain of being contained, dismissed, the pain of not being respected, you see, the pain of Rodney Dangerfield. And we think, oh, if I get to the bud, if I get respect, I'll have no pain. But that's not true. Because in order to get to no pain, you have to give up the pain of being you. Or you have to give up. You see, this is very difficult for language to explain. It's very difficult to explain oneness with language because language creates two. So we have to get beyond words. And the only way to get beyond words is through a metaphor, a little story, a myth, a metaphor that you can work with. The bud and the bloom are the same pain. And if you could but see that, that would be the bloom that transcends the bud and the bloom. What is your face before the bud and the bloom? Who are you? What is your face before you're contained by these two parents, you see? Who are you that is one? Well, you have to transcend the bud and the bloom, because you can't get to the bloom unless you drop the bud, and you can't drop the bud because that's all you are. You can't drop the bud because that's what you know. So you can't get to the bloom without dying to the bud, and the bud can't die because the bud can't by willpower, by choice, get to the bloom. So the pain that is not chosen, or the pain that is the one, and this pain is not an idea of pain, it's a feeling. So when you yearn for the bloom and you yearn to be free of whatever is controlling you or hurting you or whatever, you yearn to be free, that's pain, but at the same time, you don't want to give up what you know and who you are, and that's pain. But these two pains are just different viewpoints of the same flower, or two different. In other words, there's the pain of the hag and there's the pain of the princess. The hag has to die. That's painful in order to become the princess. So this, you see this, we separate these two pains, and that is our trap. There's only one hurt, one feeling, and that feeling of pain is the yearning to transcend the pain of the bud and the bloom. So the flower that bursts forth when the pain of the bud and the pain of the bloom are the same pain is huzzah. Huzzah, you see. I am free. I'm free from the bud and the bloom. And so that bloom of I am transcends you and the world, and it transcends the duality. It transcends it transcends the wound. It transcends the wound that won't heal. Okay, let's stop right there. Remember the minute. Work with this. Go get a flower. Thanks for dropping in.